There's a moment, quiet, unplanned, where everything shifts. You see something, you feel something, and suddenly, the life you were living no longer fits. Not because something changed out there, but because something broke open inside of you. And once that opening happens, there is no going back. That's the truth no one tells you about awakening. It's not a gentle glow, it's a fracture in your illusion. They taught you to doubt your instincts, to silence your emotions, to numb your knowing just to fit in. You were programmed to perform, to please, to survive, not to remember who you are. So when the truth finally pierces that programming, it doesn't feel like peace. It feels like everything you trusted just became suspicious. Everything you called normal starts to look like a carefully painted lie. That's the first rupture, and it hurts. Because for a moment, it feels like losing the world, but in truth, it's the world losing its grip on you. You've been told awakening means finding the light, feeling bliss, becoming high vibe. But that's not how it begins. Awakening starts with disruption, not delight. Because you're not just gaining clarity, you're watching illusions dissolve in real time. It's not the light that's painful, it's the crumbling of what once felt real. It's like walking backstage at a theater. You used to be mesmerized by the show, the lights, the music, the roles. But then, you step behind the curtain, and you see the wires, the props, the scripts. You see that the magic was engineered, that what moved you and was manipulated. In that moment, you don't feel enlightened, you feel betrayed. But that's the moment the real story begins. Because now, you know what was real and what was rehearsed, and the strangest part? Science agrees. In quantum physics, the act of observation collapses the wave. When you truly look at something, not just glance but observe with awareness, reality behaves differently. The illusion reacts to the witness, and the soul, as Edgar Cayce said, never forgets what it once knew. So when you awaken, it's not about learning something new. It's about remembering what was always there, buried beneath the noise. But even with all that awareness, a new challenge appears. Now that you see, how do you unsee? How do you function in a world that still clings to the script? That calls the illusion truth? That mocks what you've seen because they still need the show to go on? The risk now isn't falling asleep again. It's isolating yourself in your clarity, feeling like a stranger in your own life, knowing you can't go back, but unsure how to move forward. And that's why this video exists. Because in the next few minutes, we're going to unravel what truly happens when you awaken. We'll explore why it feels like grief, how to protect your energy without shutting down, and how to walk clearly, with grounded purpose, in a world that still believes the curtain is real. If this speaks to something deep inside you, if you've felt this shift and don't know how to hold it, then stay with me. And if this theme calls to you, subscribe to the channel and walk this path with me. Don't let this moment pass unnoticed. Click subscribe now and let's explore this remembering together. In the next part, we'll dive into the shock of truth, why awakening doesn't feel like bliss at first, and why grief is often the first sign that your soul has returned to clarity. Let's go deeper. The shock of truth. Why awakening feels like grief. There's something no one tells you about waking up. It feels like loss. Not because you lost anything real, but because you finally stopped clinging to what was never truly yours. What once comforted you now feels hollow. The patterns you trusted, the roles you played, the dreams you inherited, they begin to fall apart. And the part of you that believed in them mourns. You're not grieving the truth. You're grieving the illusion. Like someone who spent years painting a beautiful window, only to realize it was never meant to be looked through. It was meant to keep you from seeing. Awakening tears down that window. It strips away the stories. And what remains is silence and space. That silence can feel like loneliness. That space can feel like chaos. But it's not destruction. It's revelation. Let me explain. When your nervous system has been trained for noise, stillness feels dangerous. When your heart has been trained for performance, authenticity feels unsafe. So the moment you wake up, really wake up, your body panics. Not because something is wrong, but because something finally became right. You're remembering what peace feels like. And peace isn't loud. Peace doesn't beg for attention. Peace doesn't match the frequency of the lie. But what if the most powerful truth was hiding where you never thought to look? That's the paradox. You've been looking out there for signs, for answers, for a path, but your soul has been whispering all along, not in language, but in sensation, in discomfort, in longing, in the quiet knowing that something was always off. You weren't crazy. You were awake in a world that preferred sleep. Bruce Lipton reminds us that belief shapes biology. When you start to believe differently, your entire chemistry shifts. It's not metaphor, it's physics. It's neurons rewiring. It's cells responding to new frequencies. That ache in your chest, that confusion in your thoughts, that pull to isolate, that's not regression. That's recalibration. You're not falling apart. You're falling out of the lie. Here's something to reflect on. Remember a time when you looked around and everything felt off. Maybe it was in a relationship, maybe at work, maybe sitting in silence on a random afternoon. And suddenly, nothing made sense. But you did. That was your soul tugging at the curtain. That was your clarity asking to be seen. Pause now. Breathe. If you feel tears rising, or even a tightness in your chest, let it be. That's your truth making its way to the surface. Let's go even deeper. If you've come this far, it's because you've already begun to release the stories. You've already started to remember. But the path ahead? It requires a different kind of strength. The kind that doesn't perform. The kind that doesn't pretend. Now we'll talk about the system that trained you to stay blind, and how it still tries to pull you back into the illusion. The inversion trap. How the system keeps you blind. You weren't blind because you were weak. You were blind because you were trained to be. That's a truth most people don't want to face. From the moment you were born, you were taught to ignore what you feel and believe what you're told. You learned to silence the whispers inside and obey the noise outside. And with time, that became normal. So normal, in fact, that questioning it made you feel like you were the problem. But let's tell the truth now. You've felt it. That gut sense that something was wrong, at work, in a conversation, in the life you were trying so hard to maintain. You felt the tension between who you are and who you were pretending to be. But you stayed, you smiled, you said, "It's fine." Because that's what you were taught, to prioritize approval over alignment. To stay in the role even if it crushed your spirit. Here's the trap: the system doesn't just blind you, it rewards your blindness. It builds its comfort around your disconnection. And when you start to remember, when you start to see, it calls you broken, dramatic, lost. You're not lost. You're just no longer willing to play a game that costs your truth. And the moment you stop playing, everything shifts. Not because the world changes, but because you do. Let me give you a moment. Think of 3 times in your life when your inner voice screamed and you still silenced it. Was it love? Was it a job? Was it the version of yourself you thought you had to be? Write them down if you can. Speak them softly to yourself. Witness them, not with guilt, but with clarity. You've seen it before, you just didn't know how to read it. And if you feel something moving inside, a heat, a sadness, a breath you didn't know you were holding, let that be your signal. You're not imagining things, you're remembering things. The system only works when you stay disconnected from your internal compass. But the moment you return to it, everything starts to realign. Slowly, quietly, sometimes painfully, but always surely. Now, take a breath. And if you've felt this, even just for a moment, leave a word in the comments that reflects what you're reclaiming. Maybe it's clarity, Maybe it's boundaries. Maybe it's trust. Whatever it is, put it into words. Let it echo. Let it ground. In the next part, we'll go even deeper into why many people reject their awakening, and how the system uses comfort to pull them back into the illusion. You've seen through the veil. But can you stay awake when it starts offering you your old life back? Why most people reject their awakening and collapse back into the lie. The moment you wake up, the system doesn't fight you with force. It seduces you with comfort. It whispers, "Come back. It's easier here." It doesn't need to attack your truth, and it just needs to make the lie feel good again. And for most people, that's enough. Because truth at first isn't pleasurable. It's disruptive. And disruption doesn't trigger dopamine. It triggers withdrawal. Let me go deeper. Your brain is a pattern-seeking machine. It's been trained, for years, to chase approval, routine, predictable rewards, likes, smiles, agreement. You've been conditioned to associate safety with sameness. So when awakening shatters those patterns, it doesn't feel like peace, it feels like chaos. And chaos doesn't feel good, even when it's truth. This is why people turn back. Not because the illusion made more sense, but because it made them feel something familiar. It gave them the hit, the validation, the image of belonging. Waking up is like switching from sugar to whole food. Your body knows it's better, but it misses the high. Real nourishment feels dull at first, but only at first. Let me give you an image. Imagine you've lived your whole life inside a house with scented candles, each one masking the mold in the walls. One day, you blow them all out, and you smell the rot. It's real. It's been there all along. And now you have a choice. Fix the foundation or relight the candles and pretend it smells like home. Most people relight the candles. It's easier. But is it real? Here's the process. Take 24 hours. Don't post. Don't seek reactions. Don't chase likes. Instead, align. Notice how often your actions are driven by the desire to be seen versus the desire to be whole. It's a subtle shift, but it reveals everything. And if you're feeling a resistance right now, that inner pull to escape this moment, notice it. That's not weakness. That's your nervous system detoxing from performance. Pause. Breathe. You're safe here. You don't need to be understood by everyone. You need to be remembered by yourself. Now let's go even further. Because once you begin to trust what you see, something even more sacred happens. You stop seeing with the eyes of your past. You begin to see with the eyes of your soul. Seeing through the eyes of the soul. What if the moment you thought you were figuring it out was actually the moment your soul was simply remembering what had always been true? Awakening doesn't give you new vision. It clears the dust from an ancient lens. It's not about seeing the future. It's about recognizing what's been hidden in plain sight. Your third eye isn't a mystical telescope. It's a mirror turned inward. It reflects not what's out there, but what's alive within you, buried beneath the noise. You've walked into rooms and felt something was off before anyone said a word. You've smiled through conversations that made your body ache. You've said yes with your mouth while every fiber of your being screamed no. That wasn't anxiety. That wasn't overthinking. That was your soul trying to speak. Joe Dispenza once said, "We don't see reality as it is. We see it as we are." That's why two people can live the same event and walk away with completely different truths. Because perception isn't passive, it's encoded with memory, with trauma, with intuition. And when you start seeing through the eyes of your soul, everything shifts. Not because reality changes, but because you're finally present enough to meet it as it truly is. Pause now. Close your eyes for a moment. Ask silently, without needing an answer, what truth am I pretending not to see? Don't search, just ask. Let the question sit like a stone at the bottom of a still lake. Maybe you'll feel a sensation, Maybe nothing at all. That's okay. The soul doesn't speak in noise. It moves in stillness. Let me give you an example. Imagine you're holding an old photograph. Blurry, faded, edges torn. You've looked at it 100 times, convinced it tells one story. But then one day the light hits it differently, and in that shift you see a detail you never noticed. A shadow, a hand, a face half hidden, and suddenly, the whole memory feels different. That's what soul seeing does. It reveals what's always been there, waiting for your attention. And the more you train this gaze, the less you rely on outside validation. You stop asking, "Is this right?" and start feeling, "This is true." That difference is liberation. But here's the tension. The more clearly you see, the more disconnected you may begin to feel. Because now you notice the illusions everyone else still calls normal. And that clarity can be isolating. Let's explore that next. Because seeing is one thing, but living in a world that gaslights your vision is another. The illusion of normal. How society gaslights the awakened. It hits you in quiet moments, at family gatherings, scrolling through social media, sitting in a meeting where everyone smiles but no one really feels. That ache, that awareness, that invisible wall between you and the world you once called home. And it whispers, "Maybe it's me." But it's not. It's the illusion of normal pushing back against your clarity. Because society doesn't reward awakening. It mocks it. It turns your silence into awkwardness, your boundaries into selfishness, your shift into a phase that people hope will pass. Why? Because your clarity threatens the script. Your authenticity exposes the performance. And those still asleep need the lie to survive. But let's get real. What's called normal in this world often means burnout, distraction, disconnection, working jobs that drain your soul, performing happiness while suppressing grief, talking endlessly without ever truly being heard. When you start to reject those norms, people don't see healing. They see rebellion. They don't ask, "Are you okay?" They ask, "What's wrong with you?" Let me give you an image. Imagine you're the only one in a crowded theater who realizes the fire alarm isn't part of the show. You're the only one standing, heart racing, while everyone else keeps clapping. Do you sit back down to fit in, or do you walk out alone, with your truth burning in your chest? Pause now. Think of one time, just one, when you felt that clash between your inner knowing and the outer pressure to act normal. Maybe someone laughed at your pause, dismissed your intuition, called you too sensitive, too distant, too deep. Breathe into that memory, not to hurt yourself, but to validate what you saw. You weren't overreacting. You were waking up. And if today something in you feels tired of pretending, tired of explaining, tired of translating your truth into palatable fragments, then let this be your affirmation. I no longer owe the world a version of me that makes others comfortable. Let's take this even deeper. Say no once today, just once, where you'd usually stay silent. Watch what rises. Guilt, fear, resistance, but also power. Boundaries are spiritual. Saying no isn't rejection, it's remembrance. We've reached a point in this path where your perception has changed, your voice is returning, and your presence is beginning to anchor. And that shift brings another revelation. The people who once felt close may start to fall away. Not because you're broken, but because you're no longer wearing the mask they needed you to wear. You don't lose people after awakening. You lose roles. There's a moment in every awakening where the silence gets louder, not because you're alone, but because the masks are gone. And without the masks, many of the connections you once held dear begin to dissolve. But here's the truth that softens the sting. You're not losing people. You're losing roles. It's not that they stopped loving you. They stopped recognizing you. Because the version of you they clung to no longer exists. You're not performing the caretaker, the peacemaker, the overachiever, the one who never says no. You've stepped out of the script, and that terrifies the ones who still need the play to feel safe. This isn't punishment, it's realignment. You're not pushing people away, you're coming home to yourself. And in that return, every unconscious contract begins to expire. The agreements you never spoke aloud, but lived through your actions, are being rewritten. And those who depended on your silence will resist your voice. Let me paint the picture. Imagine wearing a mask every day for years. One day you take it off. You're breathing clearer, seeing deeper. But the ones around you? They only knew the mask. They memorized its shape, its smile, its silence. And now, staring at your face, they feel lost. They don't hate you. They just don't know how to love this version of you yet. And that's okay. Pause for a moment. Reflect. Is there someone you miss but deep down know they were only holding space for a version of you that was shrinking? That ache you feel, that's not failure. That's freedom finding its form. Here's something symbolic you can do, not as a ritual, but as a release. Write a letter to the roles you've outgrown, not to the people, to the roles. Caretaker. Chronic apologizer. The one who never asks for anything. Write what you carried, what it cost you, and what you're ready to let go of. Then if it feels right, burn it. Let the smoke carry away what no longer serves. And if no one's told you this today, your evolution is not betrayal. You're not too much. You're not cold. You're not broken. You're just honest now. And honesty rearranges everything. Now we'll explore the final, and perhaps most sacred, challenge. How to protect your energy in a world that still sleeps, without closing your heart. It's not about retreating. It's about rooting. The gift and the burden, protecting your energy in a sleeping world. Awakening brings vision, but it also brings vulnerability. You see more, feel more, sense more, and that openness, while sacred, can also leave you exposed. Exposed to noise, projection, misunderstanding. The question becomes, how do you stay open without being drained? There's a misconception that once you awaken, you're supposed to shine brightly, love endlessly, give freely. But that's only half the truth. The full truth is this: you're here to remain clear, not to convince. You're not here to pour endlessly into cups with holes. You're here to be a mirror, not a martyr. Let me give you a modern metaphor. Think of your energy like a wireless signal. When your boundaries are intact, your signal is strong and steady. But when you try to connect with too many devices, especially ones not meant to sync with your frequency, your signal becomes unstable. It's not your fault. It's just misalignment. That's why some spaces exhaust you. Some conversations feel like static. Some people drain you, not because they're bad, but because their frequency isn't yours anymore. You're not broken. You're just broadcasting from a different bandwidth now. Pause for a moment. Ask yourself quietly, where am I still leaking energy just to avoid discomfort? The answer might come as a memory, a face, a habit. Let it rise. Let it be seen. Awareness is the first form of protection. And remember, I protect my truth without defending it. That affirmation isn't a wall, it's a center. You're not here to argue your clarity, you're here to live it. Now take 1 hour, not in meditation, not in distraction, just 1 hour of no input, no scrolling, no reacting. Let your system settle. Let your truth return to its natural rhythm. The world is loud. Stillness is your reset. And if you're still here, if you've traveled with me this far, I want to thank you. Not just for watching, but for feeling. Your presence matters. Your clarity matters. Share with us below. Have you ever felt this shift? That moment where everything looked the same but nothing felt the same? Your story can help someone else feel less alone. And if this path speaks to you, join our community. Subscribe to the channel and keep walking this remembering with us. There's so much more ahead. In the final part of this video, we'll return to the beginning, not to repeat but to expand. Because once your eyes open, life doesn't go back to normal. It deepens. Let's bring it all together now. You can't unsee it. Once you wake, everything changes. Once your eyes open, nothing looks the same. The conversations feel different. The spaces feel louder. The silences feel more sacred. You begin to notice what's real, not because it shouts, but because it resonates. This isn't madness. This is memory returning. The world didn't shift. You did. And in that shift, you've begun the quiet revolution of living awake in a world that still dreams. That isn't easy, but it is true. And truth, once felt, cannot be unfelt. So now the question is, what do you do with this seeing? You stop apologizing for it. You stop shrinking to fit back inside the mask. You let it root. You let it reshape how you walk, how you love, how you choose. Not perfectly, not instantly, but consistently. Choose one truth today. Just one. Maybe it's been whispering for months or years. A truth you've avoided. A truth that aches. A truth that frees. Look at it. Gently. Honestly. Even if it hurts. Especially if it hurts. Because that's where the portal opens. That's where remembering becomes reality. And as you sit with that truth, hold this mantra close. I don't fear the truth. I fear forgetting it. The world may try to pull you back, to convince you it was just a phase, a fantasy, a misstep. Don't believe it. You didn't imagine the shift. You are the shift. And what you've seen, you can never unsee. Thank you for being here, for your presence, your energy, your courage. Thank you for walking beside me in this journey of remembering. If this message touched something inside you, let us know in the comments. Tell me how this video landed for you. Share your clarity, your resonance, your truth. And if you haven't yet, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and stay close. There's more, so much more, on the path ahead. Watch next. They rebooted the system, that's why you feel different. It will take everything we opened here, even deeper. And before you go, let this echo stay with you. Your energy is a language, and the universe listens. See you in the next step of the path.